Hey everybody, it's Kenny G here, back with another video. And today we're going to be reviewing a Rokinon 100mm f2.8 macro. And I'm mounting it on the Canon M6 Mark II. You can't see it because it's right here. It's right here. I'm using it to film this with, so you can't see that, but you can see the lens. Now, if anybody that knows, the Canon M6 Mark II uses the EFM mount, and the Rokinon uses the EF mount. So in order to mount it onto this camera, you have to use an adapter, and I've got an adapter I've had for a couple of years, and it does a pretty good job. There's no glass through here. It simply just adapts EF and EFS lenses to the EFM mount, but it does the job, does it quite well. But about this lens, it's a beefy lens. It's quite heavy. I didn't weigh it. I'm not going to bore you with specs. Before I bought this lens, I tried to find all over the YouTube and the internet, you know, some like actual real world reviews for it. And I could not, I found reviews, but it just showed pictures of it and listed specs. And that was it. And I don't know if that doesn't help me any. So I went ahead and ordered it. And knowing that after I had it and used it for a little bit, then I'm going to make a review, the type of review that I was looking for, because I know somebody else out there has to be looking for the same thing. So anyhow, this lens, it is quite heavy. It's probably the heaviest lens that I've got right now. But it's mostly plastic on the outside. It's got the metal mount here. The aperture range goes from f2.8 up to f32. The focus motion is real tight and smooth. The aperture adjustment, it clicks. It's got notches. This is a fully manual lens. You have to focus it manually. You have to manually adjust your aperture. So that is where my learning curve is coming in. I do have another manual lens, and I play with it every now and then, but it is a 7.8mm fisheye lens. And I play with it some, like taking star pictures and you know, just kind of a playing around lens. But I've been wanting a long focal length macro lens for a long time, so I decided to go with you know, with this Rokinon. Haven't really used it a whole lot, and so finally today I thought, you know, I need to really get out and play with this lens. So I hopped in the car and drove up to the Fort Gibson Dam, and took a range of like long range photos, some mid range, some macro, and also I did some portraiture type shots and some video. So anyhow, this first picture here, you can see this hillside with these trees on it. They're probably, I mean, they're well over a quarter of a mile away, not quite half a mile away. But that's how far away those trees are. The birds, I don't know if they're 100% in focus or not, but those birds were flying from over the top of that hillside right there. So that gives you an idea of what, you know, some landscape type photos it will do. I just did some basic edits. I didn't really go crazy on the editing. Did not crop it at all. Did not crop any of the photos, except for there's a few right at the end I'll show you. I did crop those, and I will tell you which ones are cropped. But other than that, I mean, all of these other photos are not cropped. This next photo here kind of gives you an idea of the separation. Because this tree that's sticking out right there is probably It was probably 50 yards away from me, about a half of a football field, and the trees in the distance on the other side of the river was at least 2 football fields away. So that gives you an idea of what the separation between foreground and background is going to be. Now the dam itself, that's probably 1/8 of a mile away. Manual lenses, I'm new to this, so I'm not really good at the whole manual focus. I'm using a manual lens stuff, but somebody who is better than me at using manual lenses would probably do a better job than I could at these pictures. That is the end of the dam nearest where I was at, and here's the far end of the dam. You couldn't get the whole dam in one shot because even though I was probably more than a football field away, it's a 100mm lens, and the Canon M6 Mark II is a crop sensor camera, which applies a 1.6 crop factor. So technically, using this lens right here, you've got a 160mm focal length. So keep that in mind. This is not a true 100mm. This is 160mm. And but you couldn't see the whole dam in one shot, not with this lens, not as close as I was. Even though I was, like I said, over a football field away. I keep saying football field because people can envision how long a football field is. And if I just say it's 100 yards away, it's kind of hard to picture 100 yards. If I say it's a football field, then that's pretty good distance. So anyhow, now to see what kind of macro work it does. I did not crop this photo at all, and I did drop the aperture down to probably f8. The other photos, anything besides these macro macro photos, anything besides these macro photos, I took it at wide open at 2.8. Now these macro photos, I did drop them down to about f8, f11, f8, somewhere in that range, just so I could get more of the subject in focus. So I did, and of course that cuts down in the light, so I did boost the ISO up to compensate. And there's going to be a little bit of grain in these because it was cloudy and kind of overcast and late in the evening. So I did have to boost the ISO, so you'll see a little bit of grain, but this is not cropped at all. So that shows you. And these blades on this plant right here were probably about 1/4 of an inch long at most. So this whole plant right here was less than ½ an inch wide. So that kind of tells you the type of magnification you're getting. It's got some pretty good detail. If it didn't have the grain in it, from the ISO being boosted, then probably a little bit more detail in it. Here's another little more contrasty colors. This stalk, whatever it was, maybe 1/8 of an inch in diameter, is real little. And you can see some really good detail. Easiest way to focus a manual lens like this, especially if you're doing macro and you get up close, as close as you can, is the way I did it. Turn the focus ring to its minimum focusing distance, and then just move your camera back and forth until you get the subject that you're wanting in focus. Give you an idea how close I was. I was the end of this lens, from the end of this lens to the sticker bush here, probably about that far. That's about how close it was. About, you know, 5 to 6 inches. So that shows you how close you can get with this lens. So it's got some pretty good macro capabilities. Now, portraiture work. I was curious on how it would do on a portrait, as far as like separation between the subject and the background, you know, for the bokeh and stuff. So I was by myself, did not have somebody else to, you know, take pictures of. So I got out my trusty Kenny G drinking cup. I placed this cup. You can kind of see. It's really blurry, out of focus, but you can see my car in the background. My car is probably 10-12 feet away from the cup. So it gives you it kind of gives you an idea of how far I place the cup away from the car. And then I position myself about 5 or 6 feet away from this cup. That's where I took the picture. I was about 5 feet away, and it filled the frame, and you can see the type of separation and bokeh and all that's in this that it has, you know, at that distance. Then I backed up to where the cup was about halfway between me and the car. So I was 10 to 12 feet from the cup. The cup was 10 to 12 feet from the car, and that's when, you know, you can see there's still some pretty good separation. The bokeh is really nice in the background, and so it does a pretty good job as far as, you know, separating the subject from the background. Then I backed on up, and here I am probably 25 feet away from the cup. And again, the cup is in the same place, probably 10 to 12 feet from the car. So, you know, you're not getting as much bokeh and you know, background blur, but there is some, you can notice it. And if you zoom in, it's still real, you know, the subject is still real sharp, and the background does have some nice out of focus bokeh. So if you're good enough with a manual lens, you know, you can do some nice portraiture work. You know, of course, you know, with sports, obviously you can't because of moving subjects, but you know, if you got, you know, just doing headshots, or, you know, taking pictures of some people that's standing still, then, you know, you can do it. It takes a little bit of work, but, you know, you can do it. Then I wondered what it's going to look like, or, you know, how this lens will do doing video. The first one I tried to do handheld, and that did not go well. The lens is not stabilized. The M6 Mark II does not have internal stabilization. It's got digital, but that doesn't work that great, and I don't ever use it. So just handheld, you can see right here that it was really shaky. So I got my tripod out and set the camera up on the tripod where it was still, and then you look, and it looks a whole lot better than I thought it would. So here it is right here again. This is probably over a quarter of a mile away from me. The end of the dam is good and sharp. You can see the birds flying by, everything. So it does some pretty good video if you put the the camera on a tripod. Here's a photo or a video of the end of the dam closest to where, you know, I was at. And again, you can see there's a lot of birds, you know, chasing down, you know, fish and all that. So I did a video in this same spot a couple years ago, and I was reviewing the EFS 55-250 mounted on a Canon M100, and I'll link that video up here and at the end of this one, and you can watch so you can see it. And I went into more detail about specs and history of the dam and all that, and then I was reviewing it was a Canon M100 using this same, I had to use this same adapter I'm using right here for this setup, but had a EFS 55-250 mounted to it. So that kind of gives you some insight to how big this dam is, and also, you know, good review on the that lens. I still, that's my go-to zoom lens right now, is the EFS 55-250, and of course I use it on the M6 Mark II now instead of the M100. Here's another angle for the video right here, and you can see the background of the hillside. You can see birds, and there's a boat taking off. It was tied off to the buoys and the heat side of the leaves. You can see a boat come across there. So all in all, it's actually, you can do some pretty good video with this lens. And I forgot, here's another macro photo here of a caterpillar. I think it's a caterpillar. I don't know what it is. It looked kind of scary in this picture. It was a real tiny, I mean, it was real little, but I was able to get a really close-up detailed shot of whatever this bug here is. And again, it was not even a ½ inch wide, so that you get some pretty good detail out of it. Now, here are the photos that I cropped, and the reason being is because there's too much going on. But as I was leaving, I looked up in a tree. There's 2 bald eagles, and so okay, I pulled over, whipped over real quick. I'm gonna see what kind of a photo I can get of these bald eagles with this setup. One eagle, as soon as I stopped the car, flew away. The other one stayed put for a little while, and I got out, and thankfully he sat there long enough for me to, you know, get the focusing just right. And once I got it focused, I snapped a few pictures and got this one, but I did have to crop it in. It was I was still too far away. There was a whole lot of these tree branches that just really distracted from the actual bird, so I did crop it in to kind of, you know, draw more focus to the bird. And then the other 2 are, and then it decided, I was going to try to get closer, and it decided to take off and fly away, fly across the river. And I started trying to snap pictures of it, and try to focus it, and take pictures as it's flying away, and that was tough to do. But I got a couple of them here, but they're kind of in focus, but still a little bit out. But anyhow, I got a couple more photos here of the eagle flying away, and I did crop them in a little bit too, because there was just a whole bunch of the scenery going on in it, and you couldn't really, unless I cropped in, you didn't really see what was going on, you know, exactly. So, but all in all, I like the lens. I don't regret buying it. I'll use it more. I didn't buy it to do portraits. I didn't buy it to do landscape, although I did show today how this performs in those conditions. I bought this one mainly because I wanted a good macro lens, and so far it's done me well for getting some good macros. I want to be able to get real close-up detailed shots of whether it be insects or different stuff, like coins or textures and stuff. So that was the reason I bought this lens, was specifically for close-up macro, but it is a little more versatile than just that. and does a good job. I will link that video of me up at the dam. So if you're curious, any more information about the dam and the combination of the smaller M series camera mounted with a EFS telephoto lens. So I'll link that right here. Anyhow, if you got any questions, leave them down below. I'll try to answer them as quick as I can. And I'm going to leave it at that. It's Kenny G, KennyGphotography.net. See ya.